In this video I'm gonna share my opinion on the Sigma 105mm F2.8 macro lens. Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto. I'm a photographer and a Lumix ambassador. And in this video I'll take a look at this Sigma 105mm F2.8 macro lens. At the time of recording this video, this lens is a pretty new product. It was introduced or launched in September 2020, so it's a few months old product when I'm making this video. And as far as I know at the moment, this is also the only autofocus lens for the L mount. This lens is also available for the Sony E mount, but the Sony users have many other options as well. But we L mount users don't have any other autofocus macro options at the moment. So this is a macro lens, but this time of the year there are no bugs or bees and flowers available, so I'm just gonna have to use whatever is available. And there is this abandoned bicycle here, and I'll just make one macro photo of that. The build quality of this lens seems to be on par with other Sigma art lenses, which is to say it's very good. And it's also very nice that the lens is weather sealed, especially on a day like this. It's snowing slowly, but also in general for all kinds of outdoor macro activities it's really nice to have a weather sealed lens, because you never know how the weather is going to turn out, and it's a bummer if you have to stop shooting only because it starts to rain or snow or something else. So this is a dedicated macro lens. But of course this is good for all kinds of general photography as well, as long as you don't need a super fast maximum aperture. This would be good for portraits and landscapes, or even urban abstract scenes like the one behind me. It's quite dark here, and I have to crank up my ISO to quite high numbers, to about 1600, even 3200 at some point, because I want to get some depth of field by stopping down to about f8. And this lens does not have optical stabilizer, and even though the stabilizer on the S1R camera that I'm using is very good indeed, it's not at its best with telephoto lenses. However, I seem to be getting sharp results at around 1/15 of a second easily, at least. One thing I also noticed is that the autofocus is not nearly as fast as it is on, for example, the Sigma 85 f1.4 that I reviewed not so long ago. And by the way, that review is up here just in case you're interested. But don't get me wrong, this autofocus on this lens is just fine for macro photography and all kinds of more static stuff, and you're not probably going to buy this lens for any kind of action or fast moving subjects anyway. But I have to say that sometimes the autofocus hunts a little bit too much to my taste, even without any apparent reason to do so. But this is a macro lens after all, and this weather today is not the best macro weather or best weather for macro shooting. So now I'm gonna share some pictures that I shot earlier at home, and these are all shot at the minimum 0.295 meter focusing distance on this lens and the Lumix S1R camera body. And that minimum focusing distance will give you the true 1:1 macro magnification ratio. Enjoy these macro shots. I hope you enjoyed those macro shots, and if you enjoyed this video and enjoy my channel, also remember to subscribe if you haven't done that already. And now more about this Sigma lens. I think the handling is quite nice, especially on the Sigma S1 Lumix S1R camera body. But this lens is not overly heavy and overly big, so I suppose it handles really well also on some of the smaller camera bodies. The aperture ring has 30 stop clicks, but you can also remove the clicks with the switch on the side of the lens, and then you have completely smooth aperture action. And there's also a focus limiter here on the side of the lens here, and that's really handy. If the focus happens to hunt a little bit, it won't go through all that really long focusing, like a distance from 1:1 magnification ratio to infinity and back. And like I said earlier, sometimes the focus hunts a little bit. When the snow and ice stick to the side of the rock, it makes all kinds of interesting shapes. Macro lenses tend to be optically really good, and this Sigma does not disappoint. This looks like it's a really sharp and optically well balanced lens, and you should be able to get really nice technical results on this lens. I also forgot to mention that this lens is not mine. This is on loan from Sigma, but they are not sponsoring this video in any way, and I'm going to return this lens after I'm done with this review and my testing with this lens. This Sigma 105mm F2.8 macro is a very interesting lens, especially for Lumix users, because at the moment, like I said before, it's the only autofocus macro lens available for the L mount as far as I know. And it's a good lens, it's sharp, weather sealed, well built. The only minor downside is that sometimes the autofocus tends to hunt a little bit. It's not too bad, but it does that sometimes. But still, it's not a bad lens, quite a decent lens. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.